Hey everybody, so welcome back to Jim Bob's Garden. So today what I want to do is I'm going to start looking at kind of thinning out my squash plants. So if you can see over here, what I have is in these two circles here and there, I have squash. And then in the circles over there and over here, I have watermelon and cantaloupe. So what I want to do is I got to thin these down. This many squash plants, one, are going to be competing for nutrients, so they're going to be fighting each other for what's good in the soil. So I want to thin them out for that reason. Two, that's going to be way too many squash plants. It'll utterly take over this entire area. So I got to kind of pare them back, and I think I'm either going to go 3 or 4 plants per circle. And then the same thing with the watermelon. I want to kind of thin them back so that one, they'll start to grow a little bit bigger, stronger, quicker, because there'll be less plants per square foot, so they can spread them roots out and really gain a lot of traction that way. And then also I want to thin down my my cantaloupes for the same reason. So let's start with the squash plants. Alright, so I'm looking at these squash plants and I want to pick the better plants to save. And the way I want to do that is, one, I want to look at the foliage and the plant itself and kind of see which ones are doing well and which ones are not doing so well. Like that one there's coming out, it's a little bit small. And I planted a lot of seeds here because I wanted plants to choose from, but I also didn't know for sure what the germination rate would be. Alright, so this one or that one? This one might actually look a little healthier than that one. So let's take this one out. Alright, so I'm going to keep one here. And that one's going to come out. And one of the other things I want to do is I want to gather some of these plants for my daughter, because she wants a couple of squash plants. So I'm going to try and pull them out as gently as possible, saving as much of the roots as I can, and then I'm going to plant them in some potting soil. Now I did have to go out and buy some potting soil. Well, I didn't have to. I went out and I chose to buy some potting soil because I didn't want to have to use a lot of the dirt from my garden, because I got so much stuff planted in my garden that scraping together some dirt might cause me some issues. So there we go, there's one plant. Add a little bit of my regular dirt with the potting soil. Pull the weeds out, and we'll set that aside. I'll water that in a little bit later. So this is a really nice looking plant there. That's a very strong one. So like I said, we're going to go through here, thin these out, and I'll get back with you and show you how it looks when I'm done. Alright, so you can see now I've got 4 plants here, and I got 3 plants here. I didn't want the extra one here because that's going to be cucumbers over in this area, and I don't want to clog it up too much. Alright, so that's going on. Well, I mean, that's how I'm going to set up my squash. Now let's go on to the watermelon. Now when it comes to the watermelon are a little bit smaller. So I'm going to do what I probably should have done before, is I'm going to thin these out a bit and try and get it to where I only have about half as many plants here. Alright, so first I'm going to take this wad here, and we're going to take a couple of plants, and I'm going to plant them in pots. Now, I will tell you that common wisdom says that probably not a good idea to try and transplant watermelons or squash. We're going to give it a shot, see what happens. Either way, I still got more seeds of both. But if I don't have to plant more seeds, I won't. And this will give my daughter the plants that she wants. Without me having to plant more and take a chance on those other ones germinating. So we're going to give it a shot. That one best. And see if I can make a successful transplant of watermelon and squash plants. So there we go. We got a mixture of peat. Well, it's potting soil. And it's one of the cheaper brands of potting soil. And yeah, I do buy potting soil from time to time, even though I don't necessarily really want to. I've got to where a lot of my garden is now planted up, and so I don't necessarily want to take soil out of my garden, because I got so much stuff growing now. I want to kind of leave what I've got where it's at. Alright, so we're going to do this, try and get that one to come back, and then for the rest of this, I'm going to take and snip off the plants so that basically I only have a few, and it's so that each individual plant has a foot or so of area to grow. Well, I should say about 6 inches. And then once these get real big and strong, I'll decide which ones to eliminate from there. Now with the cantaloupe, I'm just now starting to get my my first set of true leaves, but I've got way too many. And keep in mind, for most of this, with the exception of the squash, all of this is from my own seed. So what does that mean? Well, the advantage to planting your own seed is basically you get the seed for free, so you can feel good about cutting things back, thinning things out, without having to worry about whether or not you spent extra money and wasted money on seed. Alright, so we're going to just go through here and start snipping off the weaker looking plants and try and leave the healthier plants. And on these, I'm probably going to try and leave one every 3 or 4 inches or so as we go around the circle until I know which ones are going to be the better, stronger plants. And what that does is that means that there's less plants fighting for the nutrients in the water that's in that small amount of soil. Alright, so let me get this finished up and I'll show you the whole thing. Alright, so I got these thinned back quite a bit more. It's a lot less plants, a lot less jungle looking, and we'll let these grow up, get their second set of leaves, make sure that they're going to be nice and strong, and then I'll probably whittle this down to, I don't know, 5 or 6, 4 or 5 maybe, I don't know, plants, the healthiest, best looking plants there are. Alright, so now you can see my squash, I've got that down to 7 plants. My watermelon, I've got them thinned out quite a bit so that they can get up nice and big and strong, and then we'll determine which ones to keep. We'll probably whittle that down to about 4 or 5 plants. Then the cantaloupe, I've thinned them out to where the seedlings themselves are a lot less full, and we'll have a better chance of surviving and growing up to be nice, big, and strong. So the only thing left now is to water it all in, make sure it's got a good solid drink of water, and then let them grow for another week or 2 until I have to thin them down even further as far as the watermelon and the cantaloupe. Alright, so that's how I'm going about thinning my watermelon, cantaloupe, and squash in my one big bed that should have all of it, including cucumbers and a bunch of other stuff up in here. I've even got some leftover sweet potatoes, which is kind of funny. I even got some of them left over. Alright, so that's what I got going on today. Let me get it all watered in real good, get it soaked up so that it continues to survive, and we'll see how it goes this year. But keep in mind that having too many plants in a small area means that they have to fight for nutrients, they have to fight for water, and they have to fight for sunlight. So while I do support having a big jungleized looking garden, you really need to think about thinning things back to the point where they get everything that they need to provide good solid fruit, while at the same time being as densely packed as you can, so that you, number one, cover the soil, and number two, get as much harvest as you can out of the space that you have. Alright, thanks once again for stopping by. Do me a favor, give me a like and subscribe, and grow something, get something growing in your yard. You never know when you'll have to provide your own food. Alright, thanks again. Y'all come back and see me.